Hello again, and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse, and I am back for another rather unique video, but we are going to kind of do a little bit of a video commentary slash react video to a video I saw pop up on my feed earlier this morning. I know reaction videos are all the rage these days. Typically not what I do, but I have done similar videos like this in the past. Oculus had done an accessibility session at one of their Oculus events a few years back. I did a commentary for the um, Seeing VR Microsoft thing when I saw that video, and there's been a couple other ones here and there, but I think today's will actually be just as important. Shout out to Brian Tong. You can follow his channel. I'll try to put a link in the description below if you want to follow him, because he's done a lot of other um, helpful content regarding the Apple Vision Pro. And that is what we are going to do kind of a reaction commentary video over. I have watched this already, but I want to give some additional thoughts and kind of spread the word a little bit more about what Apple is including in their Apple Vision Pro headset that is coming out in a couple of days officially. We've had I've tried to kind of keep track, and I've seen, several podcasts or videos or text reviews, starting to come out, but very few, if any of them, have really covered or even acknowledged accessibility. We knew that Apple was going to cover accessibility or include accessibility features in the headset when they unveiled it last year. I mean, I talked about it in a video. They had showed like even a brief voiceover demonstration with an augmented reality game thing. So let's just start the video, and then I'll kind of wrap up with some additional thoughts. But this is Brian Tong. He's going to walk us through, and we're going to pause throughout, and I'm going to give some additional thoughts, questions, suggestions, and let's go.
What's up, everybody? Brian Tong here, and I want to say thanks so much for watching all the Apple Vision Pro content. I've been working my butt off, but a lot of you had asked me to go like even deeper for them. So we're going to do this video all about the accessibility settings in Vision OS 1.02. The latest version just came out, and this is going to be an in-depth walkthrough. If I don't understand certain things, please forgive me. I really wanted to do this as a service to show this all off for people that are curious, because there are some different things here. So right
now, keep in mind also that if you do follow him, he's actually, I haven't watched all of his videos, but he's done an in-depth review for the Apple Vision Pro. I've seen he's even done a tour through the entire settings menu. So if you really want to get an idea of how this thing works, what settings are included, what it can and can't do, he does a pretty good job. He does a pretty thorough job of covering those types of things, and I need to watch some more of that stuff myself to get a better idea. Because I know, through my day job even, people are going to ask. They're going to have questions, because Apple includes accessibility features, and people are going to wonder about a few use cases, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
now, I'm going to lean against this couch to keep this as stable as possible for you all, and where I stare is what will be in focus, but we're going to jump into the settings.
So what I've seen of the interface so far, from different videos, what he's got here is he's sitting like on the floor in front of his couch, kind of bracing his head so it, you don't get a lot of the head movement wobble that you get in a lot of VR videos, even some of mine. But you're looking at the room. It's like a video. It's not really a pass through. It's like it's using the camera, and then it's like showing the room. So it does things a little bit differently, but it's supposed to be pretty clear. And then all of the UI, like the windows and things and the apps, it almost looks like the Apple Watch in a way, but it's like a rectangular window. And there's these little circular icons, kind of like you would have on the Apple Watch if you didn't switch it to list view, which I have done on mine, because I don't really like the honeycomb view. I like the list view. But yeah, it reminds me of the Apple Watch, or even like the PS Vita, the PlayStation Vita, where you have those circular icons. And then, outside of the window, it's just what he's looking at in his room. So, just floating windows.
And then we're gonna choose accessibility from here on the left, right? You're used to your settings. We're gonna pick accessibility, and then
And I mean, look at this window. This just looks like, honestly, it looks like a floating iPad window. You've got the list of icons or the list of main settings categories on the left, and then on the right you've got the settings that are in those categories. I mean, it literally looks like to me on the almost like a dark mode esque iPad interface. That's pretty much what it looks like. Not gonna lie.
you'll see here VoiceOver, Zoom, display and text size, motion. We're gonna walk through all of these. So let's start off with VoiceOver. And I'm not going to turn this mode on because it can take over. And for someone who's not familiar with it, it can get a little daunting. So I'm going to leave it off, but I do want to show you the options here.
So this is, I would say, the one rather disappointing part of the video that he doesn't dive deeper into. Now he talks about VoiceOver, but he doesn't demonstrate it. But I understand why. Like, it is disappointing, but I understand why. Because even for people who do want it or need it, or could use it, I run into this for assessments, tech assessments all the time. People will try VoiceOver, get frustrated with it, and say it's broken, that it doesn't work, or they hate it. And they don't understand that in iOS or iPad OS anyway, everything works perfectly fine. It's just your core gestures have changed. So instead of like tapping on something once to activate or open it, you tap on something to hear what it is, and then you double tap, and you can explore by touch, you can swipe left and right, you can use the rotor, all of those things. And once they understand that, and I walk them through and I kind of demonstrate that, see, yeah, you can still do this, you can still scroll up and down, left and right, you can do all the things that you would do with VoiceOver off. So like this is especially the case for low vision users who want to use their vision but might want to use speech. And so, if he's not familiar with VoiceOver, yeah, I could see him getting, and who knows how it works. Keep in mind the Apple Vision Pro does not use controllers. Everything is hand gestures in the air. Minority Report kind of. So who knows exactly how? I'm sure there's a VoiceOver tutorial. If I had to guess, like they have on the Mac and iOS. But I did post a couple of comments in his video, and I'm curious if he'll acknowledge them in a future video. Because one of the things that again, VoiceOver interface things, I'm curious. How does it work? You're not touching anything, you're just doing gestures. Do you go through? Do you just make like a flick left and right motion to flick left and right sequentially through objects or items on the screen? Do you do like a turning motion to do a rotor? And also, how do can you do like an explore by touch kind of a thing where you just move your hand around in midair in front of you? And, does it then tell you what's in front? I have so many questions because there's this spatial aspect of it. You're not just looking at one window in front of you. You could have windows and apps and different widgets and things all around you. So how does that work? And also what I'm curious about is a lot of, at least the default way, and he does go into this a little bit later, but how do you navigate around if you can't, a lot of this is based on eye gaze. So you focus your eyes on an element on the screen and then it activates it. Well, even with the vision I have, and not only that, I have nystagmus or involuntary rapid eye movement. How does that work? Because it's not going to be able to track my eyeballs. They're bouncing all over the place. So how does that work? What alternative focus and control navigation method it would work best for those cases? People who can't see at all, people who don't actually have any eye, maybe they have glass eyes. But even people like myself who have some vision but still can't focus well enough. Let's continue here. So those are some of the additional questions that I have, but let's see what else he says about VoiceOver.
You have a speaking right here where you can slide faster, slower. All
Common.
right. You can choose the speech, which also allows you to choose the different voices.
Right. So your speech setting, again, if you have used an iPhone or an iPad, a lot of this stuff in this video is going to sound, in a positive way, actually, very similar. So if you know how to use iPhone, if you know how to use iPad or even watchOS, a lot of this don't, a lot of this is going to be, other than like the different way of air gestures. A lot of the features and settings here sound pretty darn familiar.
And these will download depending on who you'd like to be your voiceover kind of takeover voice. There's pronunciations. Pitch obviously changes the pitch of the speech as well. Spatializing speech will, the audio will come from the location of what you're looking at or what text you're staring at.
So you could turn that on and off. It's like, let's say you have multiple windows open, I'm guessing, and then if something like draws your attention, something happens in a window on your left, like, oh, okay, I got a new mail over there. And then if something happens on the right, like that would be a kind of a cool idea.
It can also detect languages as well. So we're going to go back here and then cover other things like where we got verbosity.
Yep, that's another common area.
Speaking hints, capital letters,
hints,
deleting text. Some of this stuff is very familiar for those of you who use VoiceOver in iOS.
Yep.
You also have things like commands. All right.
Okay.
You can switch your gesture handedness, right, depending on which hand is the priority to do the different gestures.
That's good.
Okay.
Which
There's
one
navigation
it tracks.
Style, flat. You can navigate images. You can choose a large cursor. But for those of you that are curious, a lot of similarities here, at least with VoiceOver.
And the large cursor, especially in an interface like this, where things can kind of be anywhere, I think that actually could be rather helpful in like a spatial computing or augmented reality, mixed reality type of thing like this. Now there is something under, I think it's under motor impairment settings, where you have some kind of like cursor options, and there's some neat stuff there, but we'll get there in a little bit.
Are here in Vision OS. So I'm going to get out of this one, and we're going to go to Zoom. And Zoom is an interesting one. Now, I turned this on, but this feature on, but I'm going to actually kind of do the last part of this.
Now he does demonstrate this. It's still hard for me to read if... Oh, wait, no, I think I see it right there. Zoom region. Aha, okay. That answers my question right there. Yeah, this looks very iOS familiar. He has it on Windows Zoom right now. But when he zooms in, it's, it was like a little rectangle. It's like, in your iPhone, iPad, if you're a low vision user. By default, iOS keeps it to like a little magnifying glass area of the screen. But it looks like you do have the option to go with a full screen zoom, which is what I and many other people prefer. I mean, sometimes, it's nice to have a magnifying glass, but I just, I'm like, you know what, just magnify the whole thing and I'll pan around. So it does look like it looks like I see that option is there, which is great.
To use the crown to zoom. So we're going to select that, okay?
And what it allows me to do
is when I stare at text, normally when I turn the digital crown, you get your environment option or your volume, but I'm going to just kind of turn this real quick. And what you'll see now here is 3 icons.
So there's little round icons that are just floating there now. And you're choosing between different, like whether you want to do zoom or volume or adjust the opacity. Like you don't have to see what's in your room. If you want to have like whatever virtual environment Apple offers you, I don't know if you can just set it to be like a solid black background, like, just an opaque black thing where you're in a black void with whatever windows. I don't know if there's that detail. But I'm almost wondering, like, everything is so gestures based. Instead of using the crown, I would like to just be able to maybe put my hand out and then make a pinching gesture. Your pinch to zoom. To me, that would make sense. But then again, Apple, even on iOS, I would say uh, their zoom gestures are my least favorite. This triple finger double tap and slide is just clunky. I've complained about it. I've talked about it before. It's like if magnifier's on, just honor the pinch to zoom. Override a regular app's pinch to zoom gestures. Because everyone, now that has used touchscreens kind of understands pinch to zoom. But that three finger double tap and slide is one of the hardest gestures to get. Like it, I know how to do it now, and it's not hard once you figure it out. But it's one of the hardest gestures to teach or to get somebody to learn. And I don't mind the crown here, but I can't help but wonder, like, just make a pinch in and out gesture. I wonder, even with so many fingers, make it three fingers and a thumb or something.
Their zoom one there, normally that's not there. Normally you have the environment and just the volume. But now because I turned on use crown to zoom, once I turn the digital crown, you're going to see here, it pops up this window and allows me to zoom into
Yep, see, he's got
text.
the lens. It's okay, but I would definitely want that full screen.
You can also go check out the maximum zoom level. You can go.
Now, what I'm also curious, does it just zoom on the interface? Or let's say I change to full screen zoom, does it also zoom in on my environment? Because what I'm wondering, I guess we'll tackle it right now since we're talking about zoom. I don't remember if he covered, if there's we have zoom, but then we have magnifier. Zoom is magnifying text on your screen. Magnifier is the handy dandy little iOS app that turns your phone or tablet into a handheld CCTV, which I absolutely love and pretty much use daily. And I've heard mixed things in the past. I don't know for sure. Are third-party apps allowed to use the cameras for things, either taking pictures or things like Seeing AI, Voice Dream Scanner, Envision, but Be My Eyes or Be My AI. Having a hands-free magnifier, like the Iris Vision or Patriot or, eSight or any of these other head-worn devices, those are primarily just magnification devices. Whereas this, you can do a heck of a lot more. It's basically, again, you've got all your apps and features that you would have on an iPad, an iPhone, and of course, whatever new things the Apple Vision Pro VR AR stuff brings to the table. But I wonder if the cameras are just being used exclusively to pass through your environment, but I really, really hope that if nothing else, Apple, but also it would be a shortcoming if Apple didn't allow at least some approved apps, third-party apps like the ones I just mentioned, to use the camera, because they legitly have, it's not just for fun, it's not for, gimmicks or whatever. They are legitly accessibility, independence, whatever, productivity tools. And I would hate just some arbitrary Apple restriction guidelines to prohibit that from working. But let's continue with Zoom here.
All the way up to, I think, 10x if you want. By default, it's at 5. But these allow you to zoom into text a lot easier. Okay, so I'm going to get out of here. Also, we have display and text size. So we can make the text bold.
Common.
And you'll see it all change here.
I would totally do bold.
You can change to larger text as well.
I always have that on
text
bold.
size, depending on what I want. I always keep it in the sweet spot, which is the middle. And there's larger accessibility text sizes.
And sometimes those, like, I like the larger text size. I know a lot of people will use that. But I find that it kind of messes with, like, some of the layouts. It kind of makes some of the interfaces in some apps break a little bit and they look weird. So, and even on Windows, like on a computer, I usually rely on like a magnification feature like Windows Magnifier or Zoom on iOS, because then you keep the original intended layout, but you still get the benefit of being able to make things bigger. But, again, that's a personal preference. I'm glad it's here.
text sizes. Look, I can go all the way over here if I want, as far over there as I want. So let's get back to, I'm going to turn that off and go back to the middle, okay?
Yeah, look at he's just doing his hand gestures there.
You also, I'm going to turn the bold text off here too. I don't want to keep it in this mode. Button
Oh
shapes
no, that's the best.
on off labels. Now here's an interesting one.
Button shapes are
Ignore
good.
eye movements to stabilize, right? This would only be specific to Vision OS. So if you have blurriness, jumpiness, or inconsistent colors, you can ignore your eye movements just to turn off any dynamic image optimization.
Oh wait, let me hear that again.
Ignore your eye movements. Turn the bold text off here too. I don't want to keep it in this mode. Button shapes on off labels. Now here's an interesting one. Ignore eye movements to stabilize, right? This would only be specific to Vision OS. So if you have blurriness, jumpiness, or inconsistent colors, you can ignore your eye movements just to turn off any dynamic image optimization.
I have a strong suspicion that if you are visually impaired, and especially that might be part of dealing with nystagmus, that involuntary rapid eye movement, you're probably going to want to turn that feature on, because I guess, you know, in addition to focusing on elements to interact with them, it tries to optimize whatever you're looking at and make that section of your view clearer. But if it jumps all over the place and then it keeps kind of refocusing on what it thinks your eyes are looking at, my guess is low vision users are probably going to want to make that not happen.
You can increase your focus state, so that increases the contrast for items when you look at them. Even here,
let me look at that again.
Just to turn off any dynamic image optimization. You can increase your focus state, so
I
that
like
increases
that.
the contrast for items when you look at them. Even here, you can see we can manually increase the contrast.
Ooh, so that looks way better. Look at that. Hold on.
You can see we can manually increase the contrast.
That is way better. And then you put bold text on that. That actually looks pretty good. I like that less transparent, less translucent look. Yeah, I would totally turn that on. And I like that they have the, you know, they're using a dark theme. I don't know if they have light and dark themes, but, you know, huzzah. I'm glad Apple finally caught up with the dark theme. You know, only like 5 years late on the iPhone. But it's there. Yeah, I like that way better. And then bold text on top of that. Yeah.
So I'm going to click on that. You can differentiate without color. Certain like selections or cursors or options sometimes have color. We can do a classic invert if you want, right?
Oh God, that looks terrible. Wait, I can't even see
classic
anything.
Invert if you want.
Oh dear God. I hope that looks better in the headset, because I can't. I see the switches, but text? Good God, that is like the worst thing I've ever seen.
Right, we've seen this before.
Holy God.
All right, reduce your white point, but these are all display and text size options in accessibility in Vision OS. Okay, let's go to motion. Now this would just be to, there's like that parallax effect when you kind of look at icons, and when you move side to side, you can reduce that motion. Also with other things, you can autoplay message effects, which we normally do, you know, when you have like someone says like, oh, congratulations, and the fireworks go off.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Here. Autoplay animated images and autoplay video previews. So this is all motion related. Let's go to spoken content.
It'd be nice to disable some of those.
All right, so a speak selection button will appear when you select text. So I'm going to show you.
Now this one, you know, it's different from VoiceOver, so you will get to hear some text to speech. And it kind of does almost have like a weird echoey spatial quality that, like, even when I was watching this on my phone earlier, you could kind of tell. But they use the Samantha voice, and again, this is a feature that's been in iOS for a long time. I show it to people.
Show you this in action. So I'm going to turn this on, see if I can get this done right. Okay, and forgive me here. Siri, open notes.
So he looks over to his left, away from the window.
I'm going to choose, look here.
Got a little note up there.
Let me close this down here.
Virtual keyboard.
Okay. Let me move this down here. Sorry.
I want a dark keyboard. I don't like that light keyboard.
Look at that cursor again, and it gives you options. Paste, select all. If I look to that little right icon, oh, you know what? I'll need to select text first. Let's select all. Okay. If I look up here now in this, you know, where you have the different options.
See, again, he's using eye gaze.
There should be an option to speak. That's normally not there, but because I turned that on, it is on. So I'm going to hit speak.
This is a fun time to be able to use the Apple Vision Pros.
Okay. I put an S there. It's supposed to be Pro. You got me. But this is just a way to show speak selection working. So I'm going to turn that off.
Yep. And then there's a
You
speak
can also have it
screen.
speak the screen,
Yep.
what it sees. And a little icon up in that top right-hand corner shows up. So I'm going to...
Spoken content. Speak selection. Off. A speak button will appear when you select text.
Yep.
Speak
Just
screen.
as advertised.
On. Highlight content.
So it's literally speaking what's on screen. So I'm going to turn that option off.
Your
okay?
2-finger flick down, basically.
You also have different voices.
Speak selection. Read selected content.
You can change the speed of it. Yeah, that's really fast. But
I can understand that.
You know, play with these different options, default languages, voices again, and spatialized speech so it comes from where you're looking. Okay, so that's the spoken content aspect of it. Let's go back here.
Okay.
Let's go to audio descriptions.
Yeah.
And this is when available, you can automatically play audio descriptions for you. So that's just the only thing in here.
I've really grown to like that
Eye
feature,
input.
honestly.
This allows you, so not everyone, if you can only really use one eye, you can actually choose the eye input that it does, and then it'll actually walk you through the calibration process again to recalibrate, you know, eye tracking, whether it's your left eye or your right eye.
Now that is something I didn't expect, but I was pleasantly surprised about when I heard, because I know a fair few people, especially a fair few visually impaired people, who do have only use of one eye. Hey, Joe. It's really cool because, you know, a VR headset, you're typically relying on like the stereoscopic viewing of different images in each eye, but Apple has actually accounted for you can use and still interact if you can see well enough visually. You could still configure it and set it up so it recognizes your one good eye. That's a cool thing I did not necessarily expect.
Okay, physical and motor. So let's look at interaction. So this is assistive touch. Allows you to use your Apple Vision Pro if you have difficulty interacting with spatial content and it requires an accessory. You can have sound actions. I thought this one was also really interesting. Dwell control. So what is dwell control?
This is kind of neat.
Sometimes like the OS is a little like too fast for people. So if I choose dwell control on,
Dwell
okay,
control.
I'm gonna turn that on. Okay, and it gives you like the duration of time to dwell. Watch what I do. I'm gonna stare here at this control center icon option, and it dwells on it for a second. You saw that white cursor appear. I'm gonna go back to accessibility now. Watch. That allows you to kind of use the OS and instead of it being very flooded.
I can almost really see this being useful even for some low vision users who are trying to still use things semi-visually. Because if you're trying to look at something and you maybe you look at it for just a microsecond too long, it'll activate it, and then you start activating or using things that you don't mean to. It's kind of like a delay. So it's like, oh, I can take that extra second to try to be able to read that quickly enough. Or for any other reason, but I can see that being useful in a lot of different scenarios.
Fluttery and fast dwell control really slows it down for some users. All right, the target can be automatic. The target can also be a system pointer or using a trackpad, but this allows you to change basically the speed at rate of when you select things. Instead, you're just looking at it and staring
System
at it.
pointer.
All right, let's see. Is this pointer control? Okay. So this one's cool, pointer control. This is very reminiscent of what's in iPadOS. I'm going to turn that on and check this out. First of all, this actually shows you everywhere I'm looking. So right now my control's by my eyes, right? You can see that white dot fluttering there. Let's go and change that to my head, okay? It says, please confirm your selection. I'm going to confirm it. And we'll look now, I'm actually controlling the pointer.
So the pointer is always in the middle. And when you move your head, it's always going to be in the center, and you can do it that way. And he does show you can also increase the size of it to be very big, and you can also change the color. Watch this.
I hope this doesn't, the shakiness of the VR camera.
No, it's not
mess
bad.
This up, but
I don't notice.
I'm using my head to actually move the cursor. I can change it to wrist as well. Oh, sorry, that's index finger. I'm going to cancel
Index
that.
finger or wrist. That's really cool too. So you don't have to
Change it
use
to
your
wrist.
head.
Let's go right hand.
That I
And
appreciate.
watch what happens here. Confirm. It's using my wrist
And yeah,
to
that's
control
cool.
the cursor.
Your hand is the
Or the
controller.
pointer.
It's the
Let's call it
mouse
the pointer.
pointer now.
So I'm going to go back here
That's cool.
to eyes and get it back to that. But these are different options. So look, there's the pointer control. I can increase the contrast of it if I want. I can also change the color. Let me go here. I can change the color if I want to blue or red. I'm just going to keep it on. I think it's on white. Okay. I'm going to turn off the eyes part because it is. I wanted to show you. Oh, sorry. Let's go to your pointer control, turn off. But I wanted to show you. You can also actually, let me put on real quick. Pointer size, right? Look how big.
Yeah, look at how big that is. That's awesome.
You want it to be.
Even I can't miss that.
Okay. Also, if you want to use a
Kudos.
trackpad, you can automatically hide the pointer, and then there's scrolling speed adjustments. So this is all part of the pointer control and interactions and accessibility, okay?
So that could, I'm kind of curious how some of these features, he's showing them individually, but I'm kind of curious, let's say that you switch your interface from eye gaze to your hand or even your head or finger, and then you turn VoiceOver on. How do those work together? So then could I use Explore by Touch just like I would on an iPhone and iPad, and just like when I drag my finger through the air, I could literally select things and touch and interact with things. I'm really curious in how some of this stuff works in combination with each other.
We also have switch control. Now, I'm not too familiar with this, but this allows it to highlight different items and then
I
an adaptive
understand
accessory that helps people select things. It'll work in partnership with that. So I just want to show you at least what's here because
I've never
I'm
really
not
used it.
super familiar with this, but some of these options and some of these customizations might be important.
I kind of wish that he read, even if he didn't show them, I wish he read some of these aloud. Just because, hey, if you're a visually impaired viewer, he's not necessarily reading a lot of these options, but I would assume that a lot of them are, again, very similar to what you would find on iOS or iPad OS.
For people that do
maybe
use this,
some extras
I just want you all to see this
for VR or AR.
Let's go to voice control. Now, voice control is nice because, yes, we
This is
know
neat
that
too.
we can use that special S word. A lot of people probably wish I used this feature in my review, but I'm going to turn it on. And it now allows me to use this option. You'll see the little blue dot appear without saying the magic word. So I can say something like, let's try this here.
And he'll look over to his left.
Open photos.
And then, boom, a photo window appears on his
use
left.
The magic word. You can also do, though, a lot of other things with your voice control. So I'm going to go here to commands just to show you this. And there's basic navigation, right? Like close these certain things. You don't have to use that magic S word. Dictation. I could say something. Let's do this. Open notes. No, oh, here it is. It's over here.
Yep,
okay,
so he dragged it from before and dragged it over to the right
side.
side.
Let me show you this. Let's go return to go to a different line of text. Okay. Now, if you look here, we can type a thing. It's listening to us, but let's do this.
Now, what I think is also interesting is it seems to almost be contextual. So right now he's looking at the settings window. So his interface right now in his room, on the left side, he's got his photos up. And then on his right side, he's got the little notes app window up. And in the middle, he's got his settings window. So when he talks, he's talking, he's not going to dictate in the notes window because he's looking at the settings window. But when he fixes his gaze onto the edit area of where his notes are, let's see what happens.
Right, you see that phrase emoji? Mind blown emoji.
Okay, yeah, so he is looking
Thumbs up
over.
emoji. Pinch emoji. Smile emoji.
I don't like emojis. Use
Rain
your
emoji.
words.
So this is some of the dictation controls, and this is, there's so many others, text selection, deletion, but these are part of voice control, and you see that blue dot just went away.
Again, very good for people who might want to use this with mobility impairments and such. Although one thing that I will say that I've heard from many people so far is this is kind of a heavy headset. No matter if you use the there's two bands that it comes with apparently, and there's one that just kind of goes around the back of your head, and then there's the I forget what I can't remember exactly what they're called, but then there's the one that's more like you've seen on other headsets where you have the band going around your head, but then you have another band going from the headset in the middle over the top of your head to the band in the back. So that extra top that top strap helps sort of pull the headset off of your face, especially if you have, like I've seen a couple of headsets where they've counterweighted it in the back by putting something, that's, either like a dial to adjust the headband on the back of your head, or like even the Vision Buddy was kind of neat because they put the little battery on the back of your head. So the battery sort of also, kind of brought the weight, it kind of balanced the weight so everything wasn't resting as hard on the front of your face and on your nose. And so even though you have a lot of these, dictation and voice controls and all these different things, I've heard that it is actually noticeably heavier than a lot of your Quest headsets, and people even complain about those. So, maybe they'll make it lighter in the future, or again, maybe instead of having this dangling battery pack that, you have to use separately, again, if they could figure out a way to just elegantly put that in the back of your head with the head straps, it would really help to counterweight and balance the headset. And you could still make, when the Vision Buddy did it, like I said, I thought it didn't look tacky. It, blended into the band and the overall kind of aesthetic of the headset, so you can still do it well. But that would be, I think for a future iteration, I think that would be probably a decent thing to think about, is kind of counterbalancing that a little bit better. Because, I've heard from a lot of people, even with other headsets, that, even wearing some of these, they don't have really strong neck muscles, or they're not able to move their head a lot or hold their head up or whatever. Using that can be difficult. And the Vision Pro seems like it's probably one of the heaviest of these virtual reality headsets.
Away in Vision OS, and I'm trying to do my best to show you guys everything. Obviously I was talking so much about this because voice control was on, and so it put all that text there. Okay, so you have different language, the commands I showed you, the vocabulary. There you can have a visual confirmation, play sounds, but this is all options for voice control. Okay, let's go to Digital Crown. You can change the default click speed. It can be either slow or the slowest.
Yep, that's common for like your side button or home button.
Triple presses of the Digital Crown.
Yep.
Keyboards here, right? This is just the keyboard settings, sticky keys, slow keys. You can customize that experience and give full keyboard access with an external keyboard.
Okay.
AirPods here. Select which AirPods you use, right? This is pretty straightforward.
I think that'd be just on
hearing
Bluetooth.
Devices. If you have an M5 hearing device, it'll be able to talk to it and allow you to pair it.
For hearing aids. Cool.
OS.
Very cool.
Sound recognition. You might be familiar with this. I'm going to turn this on, but remember with your iPhone, the iPhone can recognize sounds and give you notifications.
Doorbells,
same thing can happen
baby
here
crying.
in Vision OS, and I don't know if they've updated these or I just haven't checked in a while, but here's some of the sounds that can detect: fire, siren, smoke, and you can turn on animals, cat or dog, appliances, car horn, breaking glass, kettle, water running. I remember was always one of them. Custom appliance, people crying, I believe was a baby crying was one of them as well. So it's up to you to turn on these sounds to be basically alerted and notified if they happen.
And that makes a lot more sense, especially in a virtual mixed reality environment where you're kind of tuned out to the world, and you're not, especially if you've turned off the kind of pass through the looking at your environment. Maybe you're watching a movie or you're enveloped in whatever app you're using. I can see this being more relevant in this type of interface.
And what's cool about that is in the control center, you can actually like add sound recognition to be kind of one of those quick options. So I'm going to go back here.
Makes sense.
Audio and visual, background sounds on or off. You can choose mono audio, maybe change the balance depending on your hearing. Maybe one ear is stronger than the other. You can change that balance.
Good.
And then you can adjust whether you hear the sound effects or not. Subtitles and captioning. This is interesting because this allows you to change the style. So I'm going to go here to the style here, and it gives you a preview. This is what transparent subtitles look like. Large text. Classic.
I see.
Outline text. You can even create your own style. I'm not going to do that, but we'll stick with transparent background, and even it allows you to see this in a large size. So you can see,
that's nice.
What it really might look like for you.
Okay.
I accidentally closed the settings I might have. Okay. Oh, I'm supposed to tap on it. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's go back here. Then you have guided access. This basically restricts, guided access to a simple app. I believe it'd be used if you're helping someone, like someone's using this through an app. You don't want to let them do everything. I believe that's what it is.
Yes, it is. And I've played with this a tiny bit. But even like trying to set it up with VoiceOver, I thought was a little bit weird. So admittedly, even like through my day job, we haven't really needed to worry about it too much. I know it's there. I'm glad it's there. The other thing, while we're talking about guided access, this might be a good time to bring up one of the, I guess, depending on how you look at it, one of the benefits, but also drawbacks that I'm hearing about the Apple Vision Pro is that when you buy it, part of the buying process is you're using your phone's camera first, and it wants to like take some pictures of your head or scan your head so that you can get the best fitting I can't think of the word. The little piece that sits between your eyes and the headset. Like it's usually like a padded thing or whatever, so it fits you, and so that it's more of a personal form factor, fitting form factor. And that's a good thing because you can basically get the headset that is tailored just for you. And you can get prescription lenses, so if you do have a glasses prescription or something, you can buy additional, and I don't know what they cost, but like you can get additional lenses that are fit to your prescription as well. But the downside of all this, the Oculus Rift or even the Quest, like the nice thing about this, I can, all I really have to do is adjust the headband to fit somebody's head. But I've shown those headsets to multiple people. I've had people over and I've showed them the Oculus Rift when it was hooked up to my computer. I could show somebody my Quest here, or I could take it somewhere. I took it to work and showed a few people. And all I had to do was adjust the headset. But the problem is if everything is set up for you, it's going to be one of those things where like it's going to be a little bit harder and more inconvenient to try and be able to let other people use it, to show them, or if let's say you have you're living with somebody, you have a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, maybe you both want to use it, but it's tailored mainly to one person. Now these insets or whatever they're called, They are magnetic, I guess, so you can get different ones, and then you can just, pop them off magnetically, so it doesn't maybe sound like it's too difficult to swap them, but that just means you're going to have to buy multiple ones. Like if somebody has, I don't know, like a smaller head or a bigger head or whatever things they adjust for. I don't know how many of these different like inserts they have, but that's sort of in a way I think a little bit frustrating if you want to have other people, you want to show it to other people. But yeah, so that's, I said there's good and there's bad to it. There was something else I was going to mention related to this, and I just blanked out on me. Maybe I'll think of it.
And you can kind of restrict which features available, but you can turn that on or off. Accessibility shortcuts. If you click the digital digital crown 3 times, you can prioritize which features turn on or off here.
So I'm going to pause it here. Assistive touch. Yeah, the video, it's a little blurry, so it's even full screen here. It's a little bit hard to read. I can kind of make out just because I know some of the stuff here. I don't know if it has magnifier. That's the one really bummer thing. I wish it wasn't just pass through, or I wish it wasn't just used to show you your environment, but I wish there was a mode where I could literally hide, like when he accidentally hid the interface there. When I'm just looking in front of me, can I zoom in to that? Like if I was using a magnification app or a camera app, because that would be really sweet. A hands-free, head-worn magnifier. But I like the fact, again, just like all your other devices, your tablets, your phones, your watches, you got the triple click feature, so you can set whatever accessibility things you want.
Here, so you can see
that's
some
good.
Of these classic invert. That was with kind of how you see the OS. Accessibility shortcuts that we did. Siri here. Siri will listen for voice input. Again, Siri pause time, longer, longest. Spoken responses. You can choose to have Siri still work while you're in calls or not. Okay. And then there's individual per app settings if you want to do some app customization.
Yep, that's nice. I haven't dug into that too much.
There was one thing that I forgot, so let me try and find this real quick to show you all.
Oh, I think this was cool too. I forget what it was, but I think it's cool, if I remember correctly.
Okay, this is it. Okay, here it is. So this is under physical motor and assistive touch, and this was really interesting. So I'm going to turn on assistive touch, and you'll see this icon option appear. And if I stare at it and click on it, it now shows me I can do quick.
Oh yeah.
This is like quick access.
So it brings up, you hit the button and it kind of expands into this little radial menu, like a circular radial menu. You've got things at 12 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 icons around this circle here.
To jump to the different, aspects of here, okay? But then there's also custom. And so
now you've got this grid. Now this is cool.
These are like the different gestures. You can actually in here create your own gestures and then assign them.
Now I don't know if it's you have to choose from pre-existing gestures and then reassign them, because they do have that even as like a voiceover feature, like you can reassign different gestures or even unassigned gestures. So one of the things that I did when that feature came out is, rather than needing to change my rotor all the time, a lot of times when I'm looking at websites or other HTML content, I navigate by heading a lot. So because I know that, I take 2 fingers. This was an unassigned iOS gesture, and I just swipe 2 fingers left and right, and I don't even have to change my rotor. That just automatically goes by heading. So I could see this being very useful in a general context, but even especially a voiceover context, something that you want to do very often, to have mapped to a convenient gesture. And again, I don't know if they just have preset gestures. I think it would be really cool if, especially since it's hand tracking, I could just make like a gesture, like, I don't know, um, like, maybe I wanted, and if you could combine this with shortcuts or something to where like, let's say I'm low vision and I know what print looks like or something. I could, let's say that I wanted to, I don't know, maybe I wanted to make a shortcut for YouTube, and then I just drew a Y in the air, and then I could, then it would just, and it would just launch that shortcut, and then boom, I'm in my YouTube app. Or actually, well, no, I wouldn't be because YouTube is not currently supporting Apple Vision Pro yet. But let's say podcast, maybe I just draw a quick P in the air, and then, I don't know if you can get that. I don't know if you can create gestures that detailed, or if you have to pick the ones that are just already there or that are already built by Apple. But even if they don't have that yet, that would be a really cool thing, especially for hand. Since you're doing everything with your hand gestures, you could make a shape, or you could make like I said, a letter. And then rather than having to either struggle with the interface, or if you didn't want to use Siri, you could just, do that gesture and it would perform that action, either open up an app, or maybe I could, like, let's say I wasn't looking at a media app, but if I took two hands and I went right in front of my face, I just clapped them together or something, and that would play pause whatever media I had playing in the background. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that I think you could do, and I'm curious how far this gesture customization goes. I just thought of some of this stuff now, but this is intriguing.
And I'm not going to fully do that, but right, you have custom actions, assign, single tap, double tap, long press. I can go here and,
So yeah, it might be the ones that are just built in, but that's something they could build to.
I'm just going to do a triple tap. 1, 2, 3. And save it. And I can type.
Right, so a triple tap, it almost sounds like you have to choose between a pre-assigned gesture. But I think it would be very cool eventually if they did let you draw gestures in the air so that you could even, build gestures that weren't even included. In a spatial, in a, a hand, like a mid-air hand gestures type of deal. I could see this being not only kind of a cool creative gimmick, but I said, depending on what type of motion capabilities people have, that could also be a really neat accessibility feature, because maybe if somebody had their hand but they couldn't make fine gestures, but they could make some general like flick gesture with their wrist or something, or and then it could perform some common thing that they needed to do, to be able to sort of create your own gestures and then assign them to all these preset commands would be very, very, or even a shortcut could be really cool.
Call it triple.
So yeah, I don't know how he's
single click typing
using the keyboard thingy.
And it'll appear here as a custom gesture, and then custom gestures can now be activated in this custom menu. So you can create your own gestures that could be then essentially assigned to different things. It's pretty interesting, right?
So I'm wondering, and then the other thing that I wonder about that is, do you have to open that custom gesture wheel every time? Or can I just, once I have it set up, as long as that feature is enabled, can I just do that gesture in midair? Like, do I have to open and select that? Or is that just a matter of like, that's how I create it? I'm not quite understanding fully how that works, but there's some unique potential there.
So let's get out of here. I'll just turn off Assistive Touch. But that is a general, a good deep enough breakdown of all the accessibility options that are here in Vision OS. And I hope this helps you all that were really curious about this get an idea of maybe where things are different, where things are similar.
And so we're just going to stop it there. That is basically the video. Let's see. Okay, well, we'll just open a new window here, open a new tab. I thought that was, like I said, I think he did a really good job. He admitted the areas he wasn't so sure of, but he still dove into a few. And like I said, skipping over voiceover, actually using it, I'm kind of disappointed that that wasn't included. But again, if you've never really used voiceover and you don't understand really the whole way that voiceover does switch your chord gestures, I get why he didn't demonstrate that. So I don't fault him for that because, like I said, even the people that I work with regularly for my work, people get befuddled by it and they kind of misunderstand it to be like, oh, well, this is garbage. This doesn't work. No, it does. It's a fundamental change in how you use your device. And once they understand that, a lot of them are more kind of receptive and go, oh, okay, I get it. But it's something that's not immediately intuitive. It's like, hey, they took over my screen. My gestures don't work anymore. But I'm glad that finally, and again, people are starting to cover accessibility for technology in games, in mainstream press and articles and podcasts and things like that, but they don't do it enough. And especially for a major device launch like this, and especially for a device that people can't afford in a lot of cases, it would be really helpful if more mainstream press would, at the very least, acknowledge and at least devote a little bit of their review, a little bit of their coverage to accessibility. Because a lot of people, and even, there are features that, okay, maybe meant for a specific disability, but again, can help everybody. Subtitles, there's a lot of reasons to use those. That's a really common one. But I'm glad that Brian, again, a huge shout out to Brian Tong for covering that, covering accessibility. I just saw that video in my feed earlier today. So I'm glad that somebody did a nice deep dive, and I like I appreciate the way he showed it. I still do have some questions. He didn't touch on anything with the camera, so I almost wonder if there is an Apple sanctioned limitation as far as like the only thing your cameras are used for is your hand tracking, looking at the environment around you. But could an app like the camera app or could you have a magnifier app like you have in iOS, which would again be very, very handy. I want to look at, I'm just going to click on my channel just so it's something in case it goes to the thumbnail thing, and we'll just, hello, there we go, there. But could you use the camera for, magnifier? Are other app developers going to be allowed to use the camera, even to take photos for a mainstream audience, or to, again, Seeing AI, Be My Eyes, Ira, any number of these different things. And if they don't allow that, I would argue that is a huge shortcoming, and Apple really should. Maybe there's a technical limitation. Maybe there's some sort of weird thing where it can't just, do the pass-through and accommodate these other apps at the same time. But I would, especially if you said, okay, I'm going to, turn the real world environment off, but then I'm going to use my camera to do some of these things, then the pass-through, or then the cameras are really dedicated to that app's purpose. I don't know, but if it's just an arbitrary thing where Apple loves to limit things for people, so only they have control, or even, nobody has control of it, and they just don't use a feature that they could. If there is that limitation, I would love for them to acknowledge that and allow that in a future Apple Vision Pro software update, because again, these aren't just gimmicks. These are things that could legitimately be very, very helpful for people. If I had a headset, I guarantee you I would use some of them. That'd be great. So that kind of wraps things up. A few other odds and ends, like I said, I'm not really going to be able to cover the device itself on the channel, and this is kind of the best alternative that I can think of for now, is kind of reacting to this pretty well done deep dive accessibility video from Brian. Um, like I said, the device itself, starting price is $3,500. Technically, yes, I actually could pretty easily afford it, but it's not the point. Oh, the other limitation that I couldn't think of earlier when we were talking about whatever. The other thing that I've heard from a few places is the actual field of view. You got your Rift, you got your Quest, you've got all these other different VR headsets. What are they, like 110 degrees or so, 110-degree field of view? Um, well, apparently this has a smaller field of view. Now, I don't know how much smaller. I forget that channel that I watched that kind of showed like a pretty decent like simulation of how that works or what you see. But it might be more of like a 90 degree maybe or something like that. It's not, it's nowhere near as bad as what was it, like the HoloLens where you're looking at this tiny thing. It's still like a VR type window that you're viewing, but it is the viewing area is smaller than your typical VR headset, which is kind of disappointing. And I've heard that also around the edges of that of your interface, because it's trying to really sharpen things that you're actually looking at. Excuse me, excuse me, something in my throat all of a sudden. I apologize. Um, but like even the image that you're looking at, things around the edges may look a little less sharp, may look a little less blurry. So if you have vision where maybe you're relying more on your peripheral vision than your central vision because you have a blind spot or something, that could also be an issue. Again, I haven't used a headset myself, so I can't really speak to uh, how much narrower the field of view is, but that is kind of a thing, for at least a little bit. But I've heard what they do show is very, very clear. Like, despite being maybe a little bit narrower field of view, it is, I've heard many people say that it's definitely the best and most clear uh, headset view that people have seen. So, where sharpness and clarity and contrast, all three of those things are very important to a low vision user. That is good news to hear. But yeah, that's what I forgot I was going to talk about earlier. But yeah, so like I said, this thing base price $3,500. Um, Apple Care alone, from what I read, is $500. Man, you thought $100 for an iPad was expensive for Apple Care? Excuse me. No, $500. And then if you want more storage, if you want, I don't know what other, if you get other like accessories with it, or I don't know how many of those little eyepiece inserts come with it if you just get the one, or if you have to pay, and then of course, if you have to pay for an extra one, they're not going to be cheap because, even like a tiny, like rubbery bumper case is like $80 from Apple or something. So, they're going to charge out the butt for that. But, so there, I mean, like I said, the best thing that I can say about this is in version 1.0 of their headset, as I suspected and as I anticipated, Apple has included lots of accessibility into their headset, and not just for blind, but for blind, for low vision, for hearing, motor, dexterity, anything. A lot of stuff you see in iOS and iPad OS is there, and then some unique things to AR and VR, the spatial computing thing. So that's great. Again, with the camera limitations, I don't know if they are limitations. We haven't figured that out yet. I hope Brian acknowledges those in a future video because I left comments. Um, like I said, I'm definitely not gonna be getting one. I don't think, at least the first generation, personally, because A, the price is expensive, and I just don't know if it's $3,500 cool, especially when you know that a one's going to come out in a couple of years that's more consumer friendly. I might be able to get it through work, but even then, if I was going to get one through work and be able to show people, what did we talk about earlier? When you get these headsets, they're part of the buying process is that, you use your phone to scan your head so that the fit is tailored to you. Well, that's great, but if you're in a job where your setting is to meet with other people and show them assistive technology, assess them for assistive technology, well, that's going to be a little bit hard to do if Apple purposefully designs the headset to be worn by primarily one user and not easily shareable. So I don't know that it really makes sense even to get the first generation through work, because it won't. I mean, yeah, it would be good to test. It would be good. Maybe we could, as app developers start supporting the headset, we would be able to maybe do some beta testing or even try some of the released apps and give feedback, accessibility feedback, and Apple accessibility feedback overall in general. So there would be value to getting it. But then would we be able to get a better model, a couple years from now? Who knows? So not going to get one personally, unless, like, if somebody wants to give me one, like if a company or Apple wants to, go ahead and send me one to review and to cover on the channel, I will absolutely be willing to do so. But as far as me buying it personally, I'm not going to be doing that. And especially from what it sounds like, there are already delays for people who have ordered the device. And so who knows when we would even be able to get one if we wanted to buy one. So I don't know. I just think that if I happen to get a hold of one through work or somehow or whatever, maybe I go to the Apple store at some point and try one at least for a few minutes and get a little bit better idea of VoiceOver. We'll see. But this might be the best look at this Apple Vision Pro that you're going to get from me for now. But you know what? I'm glad that I was still able to commentate or react to that video, because I think there's still value in it. I gave a lot of information besides what he covered in his video, because I am more familiar with VoiceOver and the low vision stuff that he really didn't dive into as much as he could have. So there you go, guys. A little bit of indirect Apple Vision Pro coverage. Hope you guys found the video helpful. Give it a like if you did. Share it with other people. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79. Twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.